This is the Western edition of the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite in New York and Terry Drinkwater in Los Angeles. And tonight, part 2 of our investigative report, Flashes of Light, Strange Phenomena in the South Atlantic, a natural event or a man-made explosion.
Good evening. President Reagan today opened his second White House news conference with some bad news for the bureaucracy. Fewer government workers and a slashed federal payroll. Leslie Stahl reports.
The president started off with an announcement that he plans to reduce federal employment by 63,000 in 2 years.
In just 2 years, these reductions will save the taxpayers $1.3 billion. Millions of Americans today have had to tighten their belts because of the economic conditions, and it's time to put Washington on a diet, too.
He was asked when his economic program would begin to produce results.
We're not promising any instant cure. We don't believe that in a matter of several months, or probably even in the first year, we're going to see more than beginning signs of recovery. But we do believe that if the economies are passed, which and they should be, and the tax program, we should begin to see some effects, I would think, by the end of the 82 year.
Some reporters were threatening to boycott the news conference since questioners were picked ahead of time by lottery. But they didn't. The pre-choosing did seem, though, to sap the session of spontaneity, and it produced some awkward moments for the president.
And now, Jim Gerstenstang. No, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I looked at 1 instead of 3, Jim. I'm sorry. Tom DeFrank.
Some reporters whom past presidents seemed deliberately to avoid were chosen by lottery. One of them asked about the president's appointments.
Did you mean to give a signal to other Republicans that if they don't conform, that off will go their heads?
How can you say that about a sweet fellow like me?
And what about the right to life issue?
Are you opposed to contraception, which also denies the right to life?
No, I am not.
There was a question on abortion and on how public officials should determine when a life begins.
If you found a body on the street and you didn't know whether it was dead or alive, wouldn't you opt on the basis that it was alive and not start shoveling dirt on it until we determine and make, to the best of our ability, a determination of when life begins? We've been opting on the basis that, well, let's consider it they're not alive. I think that everything in our society calls for opting that they might be alive.
The president has appointed several anti-abortion leaders to key posts in the government from where they've been working to kill federal programs that distribute contraceptives and teach family planning. And indeed, those programs have been cut back in the president's economic proposals. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
Labor Secretary Donovan told a congressional hearing today that budget cuts for public job programs would increase unemployment from the present 7.3% to 7.5%. Donovan defended the slash as not particularly humane, but necessary for the economy. 2 government reports today showed improvements in key segments of the economy, but the changes were too slight to cause much optimism. The Labor Department said that wholesale prices rose 0.8% in February, down 0.1% from January's increase. But February's figure still works out to an annual inflation rate of about 10%. And the department said that unemployment dropped 0.1% to 7.3% last month, although teenage joblessness rose to 19.3%. The governors of 8 major auto industry states met with President Reagan today to discuss the plight of their constituents, and the governors urged the president to negotiate with Japan a voluntary limit on auto exports to the United States. The stock market was mixed today.